On today's show, Mavs win again.
Mavs win, baby.
The vibes are immaculate.
Undefeated Mavs.
Kristaps Porzingis looks so different, and we're going to talk about that and why he looks so different this season. Coming up on today's Lockdown Mavs.
Luka Doncic, and this is Lockdown Mavericks podcast.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com. The preseason prodigy, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
I got one Josh Green dunk.
Let's go, Josh Green dunk. Loved it. Loved seeing a Josh Green dunk. And it was a tomahawk. He put it down. Sterling Brown with the assist on the fast break. I'm hyped up for this game, man.
Was it Sterling who yelled? Do we know who yelled?
Yes, it was. The primal scream from Sterling Brown felt like he was just channeling all of us, like every Mavs fan that wants Josh Green to do well. And it was like, yeah.
It was so loud.
It was
I'm
great.
like, let's go. I was so hyped. And I just want to watch that. I mean, when you think back to Mavs dunkers and like athletic, like it's just not like it feels like we haven't had a lot of wing players that really throw it down. Like
the first one that came to my mind when you said that was Richard Jefferson, because he was on TV at postgame.
Yeah.
That Richard Jefferson dunk that he threw down, but that was even
Nasty.
Old Richard Jefferson, right? Like he wasn't even in his prime then.
We got older Vince Carter,
Yep.
Brandon Wright would throw it down, like, but he's a big, so it's like you start trying to think back. So that's why, in a weird way, it's like, oh wow, we don't get to see that very often, It's not Luka style, it's not Dirk style, and even like a Sean Marion type. Like we could go back to some Josh Howard stuff back in the day, a little bit of Jerry Stackhouse, but it's just those athletic wings. It kind of sticks out when he's doing great right now in Portland.
Dennis was throwing down dunks though.
That's true. I guess I was just thinking of like bigger wings, but yeah, the Dennis dunk contest, DJ Khaled. I mean,
no, we don't have to talk about that anymore.
His breakout season's coming though, right?
We got Mavs stuff to talk about. The Mavericks win their preseason game 127-59. 59.
That's you say 69?
Like the Mavericks outscored the Hornets. The Hornets' final score is 59. The Mavericks outscored them in both the first half and the second half. If the game would have just ended there, like if the Mavs only would have played their first half or only their second half, they scored more points than the Hornets did the entire game. It was insane.
Didn't Klay Thompson have 60 points in 3 quarters one time?
Kobe had 16 points in 3 quarters too. Man, yeah. So much to talk about from this game. We'll definitely get into Kristaps Porzingis. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. Remember, Locked On Mavs is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can watch our smiling faces on YouTube after every single game.
Like and subscribe below.
Do it. Like and subscribe below. If you're not subscribed, we're trying desperately to get to 7741 and then 7777 subscribers.
Nick told me that whoever our 7,777
I can't wait to find out what I told you.
He said that he'll give them his Mandalorian helmet.
The Black Series Mandalorian helmet.
Yes.
I'll give it to you.
So get ready.
All right. So Kristaps Porzingis looks different. He does. He looks like a different player. And first of all, everyone wants us to know that, right? Like Doris Burke wanted us to know that.
Yeah.
Jason Kidd has wanted us to know that. Everybody, Kristaps Porzingis himself wants us to know that. But just because everyone's talking about it and just because everyone, it's the popular thing to say, it feels like a talking point that's fed to some people. It's true. He really does. He looks like a different player out there. The way he's moving side to side, the way that he's like, he had this play where it was an inbounds pass, and he tipped the inbounds pass, got it himself, ran down the court, and dunked.
Yeah.
That is not something he would have done anytime at any point of last year.
Yeah. Yeah, this was the first game that I was really like, all right, you look different. Like this is, you saw a little bit of the first couple of games, but this game, it felt like you've seen it more. He's more efficient on his shots. Just, like the breakaway stuff. There was another breakaway where he stole a pass and then he got fouled going up for a shot. It was
the breakaway when he passed it back to whoever was the
Josh
guard at
Green.
that time,
Yeah,
Josh Green, and then got the the finish, which was a smart move on his part. But yeah, it was just
so much more active, and you are more active whenever you're getting the ball, right? I mean, this is, I forgot what pod I was listening to the other day, and they were talking about the Mavs. It's probably a Ringer pod.
It was Charks. I think it was Charks because he told me this in person, and then I heard it on Bill Simmons' podcast. I was like, oh, he just told me that point in person.
About the Perkins thing, right?
Yes.
And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were talking about, Kendrick Perkins and back in the Boston days. And, Perkins actually used to be a basketball player.
Kendrick Perkins, yeah.
If you guys didn't know that, if you just knew him for his dumb takes on ESPN. But they used to do this thing to where, hey, like, we'll feed you the ball at the beginning to get you, like, kind of excited, like, hey, like, you're involved, like, get him going to
you're
where
part of this.
Like, you're part of this, group, like, congrats. Like, and it would, like, encourage him, it would push him to, like, really try hard on the other end defensively. And it's like they are making this, like, the biggest storyline of everything surrounding the Mavs right now. It's not Luka Doncic's possible MVP campaign. It's Kristaps Porzingis being fully healthy for the first time. That is obviously the biggest thing that the Mavericks are telling people. It's the biggest thing that, like, when Doris Burke was talking on the broadcast and, like, they meet with the teams before the games and they kind of talk with them, everything. Yep. It's the number one thing, like, ever. Anytime they have a national, like, televised game this year, this is what we're going to hear about. And it is right. I'm just saying, like, this is the biggest thing around the Mavs right now that everyone is looking at. That's what the league is looking at. It's what all the podcasts are talking about. It's what all the, broadcasters are talking about. It's what everybody, coaches and everything. Kid was even asked about. I mean, Kid was asked about it in between quarters on the broadcast.
Before the game, in between quarters, and post game. Yeah,
what's different about Porzingis right now? And Jason's just sitting there like, you know what? He's just having fun and he's enjoying it. He's healthy for the first time. And it's like, yeah. So it's the biggest thing for the Mavs right now. In a way, like, you still hear a little bit about Luka, but it's KP being healthy is the biggest thing right now.
You know what's interesting about all that, and I think it's true. And like I said earlier, it can be a talking point that it feels like we're being fed, but it can also be true at the same time. But what's funny about all that is when the roles were reversed last year, when everyone was talking about Luka and no one was talking about KP, it felt like KP took that personal. I honestly think Luka likes it. I think Luka likes that KP is the star and he's the one that's getting all the attention. And I feel like this is the way that this season can go as good as possible. If KP's the one that's getting all the attention, all the love, all the interviews, all that, and Luka's just like, I'm just gonna chill back here and just produce.
Yeah, and it's like, I want to make this clear too. We're not saying it's like manipulative that this is the biggest storyline, because like you said, it's true. Like, if you're in that spot too, the best thing to do right now is to make this the dominant storyline for whatever your end goal is. If you really think that Porzingis is the second star next to Luka to win a title, then this is the best thing to do, because you're building confidence in him. You're feeding him in the post. You're including him a lot of the offense. You're getting him in the groove. He's having fun. He's excited. You got to have both your star players on the same page. But if you have other plans for him too, then this is what you have to do at the same time also, is pump him up. Let everybody know he's healthy too. So whatever your end goal is as the Mavericks for Kristaps Porzingis, this is what you do, and this is what you put out and communicate. It's the smartest and best move. And it's true. It's like, you're not lying about it either. He does look like the best he's looked since the bubble, I guess. I mean,
probably, yeah.
Yeah, on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, and coming up, we're going to tell you why he looks better and what he's actually doing to say, hey, this is why he looks better. This is the reason why people are saying, oh, he looks so different than before, when his numbers sort of look the exact same that they sort of did last year. So we'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Sweatblock. Sweatblock is this great product. They have these wipes. You wipe them under your underarms the night before, and you get 7 days of a dry shirt guarantee.
7 days.
You don't have to worry about pit stains anymore. If you deal with every time somebody raises their hand and they have a pit stain, just me as a person, my eyes are drawn to their pit stain, right? I don't know why it's a thing that we as people do. It's like, boom.
It's kind of weird.
It is weird, but everyone listening is like, oh yeah, it's true. Every time somebody raises their hand and they have a pit stain, it's just kind of, it's hard to not notice it. With Sweatblock, you don't have to worry about being that person that I'm staring at because they have fit stains. Wear what you want to wear. It's your little secret to confidence. This is a must-have for everybody's toiletry bag. You can get it at sweatblock.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get 20% off. Again, it's sweatblock.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. It's the #1 antiperspirant product on Amazon right now, which is saying something because that means it worked and people are buying it again and over again. So they have all kinds of different sweat stuff, the wipes, the deodorant, all that. Check it out, sweatblock.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. All right, Isaac Harris. Let's get into Kristaps Porzingis a little bit more. Why does he look better? Why? In what ways does he look better? In what ways is he playing different than last year? It starts on the defensive end. It's the plays that we mentioned earlier, the jumping in passing lanes. He had a couple of steals tonight where he literally just jumped a passing lane, which is something he's good at, something that he did in New York a lot. We haven't seen in Dallas because he hasn't been injured. This is the fourth time I've now done this bit, but this is his first healthy offseason, and he got to actually work on stuff.
No, I mean,
but
yeah.
He gets to work on some of this stuff, and he's gonna look better and be more confident and all that stuff. It all goes together. I made a joke on Twitter, but even the way he pulls down rebounds is different. Like he's pulling down rebounds, and he had 4 offensive rebounds, 5 defensive rebounds in this game in 22 minutes. The way he pulls down rebounds and just smacks the ball, it's almost to the Carmelo Anthony, get the F out of here, I got this, right? Like if you ever, I was watching the Lakers-Warriors game the other night, and every time you can hear in the rim mic, Carmelo go, get the fuck out of here. Like you can just hear him. It's not that level yet, but he's grabbing him with authority.
Westbrook wants to punch him every time.
He's grabbing him with authority. And that's the way it feels like he's grabbing the game right now, right? It's felt like a big metaphor for me. And, yeah, he knows he's going to get the ball back. He knows he's part of the offense because Jason Kidd has pumped him up so much. He's not dealing with Carlisle, coach that was just focused on efficiency. He's dealing with Jason Kidd, who maybe has unlocked something with him because he's making him a focal point of the offense. And he doesn't have to do that with Luka because he's just going to be a focal point anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you talked about his rebounds. He had 9 rebounds in this game. And I feel like he had 6 rebounds pretty early on. It's like, that's another like testament that just how hard he's trying. There was a moment, I want to say it was like 2 minutes ago in the first, maybe the second. And I made a mental note when I was watching it. And he went in for this offensive rebound and like he had no position on it, but he just went crashing into like 2 or 3 people, end up falling down, and the ball went out of a player on the Hornets, and like Mavs kept the ball and they all like hyped and picked him up and everything. I'm like, that's the type of like effort that we just weren't getting last year. And because, I mean, the role and like what he was, is just like, hey, go stand in the corner, like all this stuff. His health had a lot to play with that too, of like how he can move and trying to save some of that. It was just a combination of a lot of stuff that's, drastically changed right now. And you're seeing that on both sides of the ball. And I think he's better with his decision-making right now, passing out of the post. Like he's not forcing things like, hey, I got the, somebody threw me the ball in the post. Now I got to get my shots up. We just heard it last offseason, right? Or last preseason, or not last preseason. When he came back from his injury last time, he was like, well, I was just trying to get my shots up out there. It's like,
there was a game where he came back from an injury and he was only going to get to play the first half. And so that first half, he took like 16 shots or something dumb like that. And he's like, well, I knew I was going to get taken out, so I just had to get my shots in. And you're like, that was a weird insight into the way he thinks. Yeah.
And we were like, I remember us on this pod, we're like, oh, all right, let's just be transparent here. It's got to get the shots up. And
I mean, that's what shooters do though, right? I don't want to fault him. I appreciated that he told us that was something that he, thought about and was cognizant of, but yeah, that's
but he's not. But he doesn't have that right. Like right now, like he has a green light, but there are different times he got the ball in the post in tonight's game where it's like, and then he passed out, even though if he had LaMelo on him or whoever it is, it's like it feels like even he had 3 turnovers, but it's whatever. Like it feels like he's so much more comfortable. He feels an investment, and it's like that's the thing. Like when you're in any job that you work at. And when your boss shows that they're invested into you and they care about you and they want you, like they want to empower you, how much like better does that feel just to go to work and sit at your cubicle or log in or whatever, knowing that your boss is in your corner all the time, that your boss wants the best for you and says, I want the best version of you and I want to empower you and I want to invest in you. That's what he's feeling right now. And it's like, because kids like, I want you to be the best KP. We need the best KP. And I don't think he ever got that from Rick. So that's just, I feel like I just did like a little TED talk on leadership there, but
these are the positives. We're seeing some positives right now. Now, I'm sure in a couple weeks we'll talk about negatives. Doesn't mean we hate him all of a sudden, right? Like, but yeah, that's the reason why he looks different. It seems like there's an investment in him in the offense, and that is translating like the point that Charks made. The investment is being made with him, and so he's showing it now on both ends. He knows there's not it's the mentality of scarcity or something where you're like, okay, I got to get mine. It's like you're not sure where food is going to come from, so you just eat as much in front of you. And that's what it felt like KP was doing before. Every post up I have to take advantage of because I don't know when I'm going to get the ball back. He knows he's going to get the ball back now. And that leads me to kind of our main point about this. The Mavs ball movement looked really good in this game, and it has a couple times during preseason. And I think it's a combination of a couple things. I think it's a combination of it could be some things that the Jason Kidd is bringing and implementing into the Mavs, but I think it's also the chemistry. We talked a lot, before media day, and then we heard on media day, Tyrell Terry told us that the Mavs didn't get to do any team dinners last year or any kind of hanging out really, and barely any practices and all that. And their chemistry really suffered for it. You could see it by the end of the year. You and I were counting the microaggressions between Luka and KP during games and sort of joking about it, but also just kind of keeping mental track of them. There was none of that in this game.
Because you have to have the relational currency. Mini leadership tangent again. When the only interactions
I'm just gonna sit back.
When the only interactions you have as coworkers is transactional, relationship, transactional conversations, and there's no relational currency built up, then it makes those transactional currency moments, it's hard. And that's where like the team chemistry stuff happened. Last year, there's no relational currency built up. So when it came to, we got fixed crap on the court and start winning games, well, then there's friction. And that's when we got all the crap that we got last year. So it does seem like that relational currency is being built up to when crap does hit the fan at some point this year. It's going to happen. They're going to lose 3 games in a row and everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, what's happening? That will be a test. Will there be some shots fired? Will there be some underlying comments post game and all of that? Will there be some body language? The body language doctors will be out, we'll all be analyzing it. That's when we'll be watching.
You have to make deposits and withdrawals. That's what my dad always tells me. You read it in a book one time. It's the relational stuff. Like if I want to tell something like Isaac, you're doing something wrong on the podcast. I've built up enough relational currency with him to be able to tell him that. But somebody that I just met, maybe I can't, or I'm a guest on somebody's podcast. I can't just be like, hey, you're hosting this wrong, right? Like, that just doesn't happen. So that's what's happening with Porzingis, it feels like. And so the chemistry is really helping the ball movement. And these guys have played together for a while now. We laughed and joked about continuity, but continuity does help in basketball. And these guys, especially in the starting lineup between Luka, KP, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dorian, and Dwight Powell, these guys played a lot of minutes together. And so now you're starting to see, okay, I know that this guy's going to be here, this guy's going to be there, and all that.
Yeah, and I also want to say this too, like, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer here either. Like, we got to see them play. Like, I'm waiting to reserve. Like, they played a Hornets team tonight that didn't have 3 starters. Okay, so
we're doing this in the third segment. The reason why this game was like, we haven't talked about the result of this game as much as like the process.
But I think that's the important part of this is like, I'm not looking at this saying that Mavs defense changed. It's going to be a top 3 defense. Did you see them?
Right.
They held them to 50-something points. I'm not taking away any big team like takeaways from this. Even the preseason, like, hey, they're undefeated. Okay, put them as the 1 seed in the West. I'm not ready for that either. I need some regular season games, some teams that have their full starters out there. Then we can pull some bigger takeaways away from it. But still, there's a lot of positives from this game.
Yeah, KP. So the last couple of things. So I mentioned what's been different for KP. After the game on ESPN, he said, I'm being put in situations where I feel most comfortable, and you can see that. That to me is Jason Kidd, right? Like
that's a subtweet to Rick Carlisle.
It is. I think it is from KP. And then he was asked about what's different in Luka's game, and he said he's been real smart getting everyone involved. We know what Luka can do. The next step for him is to get everybody involved. I think that's a chemistry quote. And I also think there is some truth to that where
I'm sorry. I'm just sick and tired of that narrative. I'm so tired of it.
Here's my take on it, because I know that people have said it, and you're like, okay, well, how can you ask Luka to do anything better? He's been incredible. But I think that there's a difference between being a good passer, like the Westbrooks of the world, and a good facilitator, like LeBron. There's a complete difference between those two, and it's a level of leadership. It's not skill, it's not basketball IQ. It's just a level of leadership of getting everybody involved, of knowing that you matter, of knowing that you're gonna get your touches and stuff like that. And I think that's the level that KP is mentioning here for Luka, and I think that the chemistry thing affects that. I'm not sure that's what Donnie Nelson was talking about when Donnie Nelson said this same thing at the end of the season, but I feel like that's sort of where he was going with it, or could have been. And maybe
maybe I'm so tired of like the narrative that like the ball hog Luka, the next step for the Mavs is him passing the ball more. I'm so sick and tired of that crap. Like, I mean, if we're still referencing last year, like KP wasn't healthy. Okay. Like KP wasn't efficient enough to get the ball in the post for him to pass the ball to him. So I get frustrated about this. I was frustrated when the comments came out from the front office. I love Donnie, but when that whole thing, I was dumbfounded by how that was a talking point that Luka is like Westbrook and hogs the ball so much. I'm like, no, like he had to do what he had to do.
I mean, but Westbrook averages 10 assists a game every year. But what's the difference between what Westbrook does and what LeBron does? Right? Like, there's a difference, and I think that there's a leadership level of it that I think LeBron has and that Luka can get to that other guys don't.
Okay.
That's my take on it. That's why I think it's a little different. Yeah. Coming up, let's give the rest of our game notes. Let's talk, how did the Mavs win this game by 70 points? Let's get into that and talk about how the Mavs actually pulled this off. So we'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about betonline.ag. It's back and better than ever. Football is in full swing. You got teams all over the place doing stuff, and you got lines, and you got props, and you got so many things that you can wager on. Dallas Cowboys, New England Patriots. Cowboys in Foxborough, so away game for the Cowboys. -3.5 point favorite. Man, that does not seem like enough points. This Patriots team is not that good, and the Cowboys offense is insane. So
the Cowboys are
only a 3.5 point favorite on BetOnline.
Okay. I said on this podcast back last week, I said, y'all better blast the Cowboys number over the Panthers because they're going to blow the crap out of them. And I'm pretty sure they beat them by like almost 30, right? When they play the Panthers. And do this again. They're going to beat, I know it's Belichick, but they're going to win by more than 3.
It's Belichick, but it's also Mac Jones, and it's also that defense, and it's also that offensive line.
It's also Bill Simmons' Super Bowl favorite. So.
Yeah, shout out to Bill. So if you want to go bet that line, the over-under is 51 points, by the way, which is kind of, I don't know, it seems a little high for both of these teams, but go check it out. Bet online. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Bet online, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more stuff. We talked a lot about Kristaps Porzingis. He was the big story in this game. How did the Mavericks beat this team, this Hornets team, by almost 70 points? And we're up by 70 with like 30 seconds left in the game. How did they get there? So we have to be upfront and say that Gordon Hayward was out, and your boy Terry Rozier was out, and that LaMelo only played one half and only ended up playing, like, he didn't play a lot of minutes either. He played 11 minutes. And that Miles Bridges only played 12 minutes because he was out too with an injury. Kelly Oubre, who was a Mavs killer.
But it doesn't matter if any of those because Wes Iwundu played.
Did he? Oh my gosh. Did he really play?
You didn't clip those highlights?
I did not.
The crap you doing? You're slacking.
That's insane.
Doug Branson already has a jersey.
That's how out of hand this game was, that I didn't even realize Wes Iwundu was playing in this game. It just seemed like they just kept throwing out random dudes out there all the time. Jalen Crutcher, Scotty Lewis,
JT Thor, baby.
Nick Richards. I know JT Thor. He went to Auburn, but
Nick Richards is a Kentucky
guy. This whole point to say that the Hornets were missing a bunch of guys and a lot of their offensive engines. And so, like, when LaMelo was out of the game, it was all Ish Smith. Like, it was just clear out for Ish Smith, and he just go do stuff. And I've seen a lot of like preseason videos of the Hornets and them talking about each other and the team and stuff like that. They love Ish Smith. Everybody on that team loves Ish Smith and is like best friends with him. That does not mean you have to develop your entire offense around Ish Smith and like defer to him every single possession, right? Like, that is not the case here. So that's kind of how they couldn't score. If they didn't have LaMelo in there, they had nobody that could create their own shot besides Ish-Smith, and that is a problem. Book Knight, he was 4 of 13 in this game.
Book Knight minus 39
with a plus minus. Yeah, but him and Ish-Smith and then LaMelo, who didn't play very much, the only guys that could create their own shot, and that's a problem. And this team is not one that is like, let's kick it around a lot and then we'll get open threes. They just
but I mean, it's a problem. But you're missing two of their biggest, like Rozier and Gordon Hayward's, like two. The team I still love this team. Like this team is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, league pass team. I'm all in on the Hornets. Sign me up. I love this team
for sure. As the team was out there tonight, the players that played, they're not built for kind of anything. Because they're missing so many guys.
Yeah, and now that Miles Bridges' career is over, you know, that they're down another guy.
His career is over because Josh Green dunked on him.
Yeah, Josh Green ended it.
Ended his career. Jason Kidd had an interesting comment after the game that I thought was interesting. We don't always get to hear, or maybe it's just because we covered Rick Carlisle for a long time. We don't get to hear about what coaches are looking for during games. It seems like that's something that they try and keep secret and they don't like to tell people. But he says, you know, one of the things I really wanted to see was how guys would react to being up at halftime and the younger guys being up in the fourth quarter. He said, and they all passed the test. And he mentioned the young guys specifically, they didn't play to score themselves, but they shared the ball and they made the right play. And it felt like the whole team was doing that. It felt like the whole team was like, all right, we're just going to play our game. We're going to continue to play our game. We're not just going to, you know, play prevent defense basically like you would in football or something. They weren't just like out there coasting. They're out there playing their game no matter what the score was. They kind of weren't looking at it. And that's how they got to a 70-point lead basically. It was everyone just kept their foot on the gas basically. And hopefully that's something they can do the whole year but it's a good test to pass, especially in a preseason game that doesn't necessarily matter, where Luka wasn't playing well. We haven't even mentioned Luka's line in this game. 10 points, 4 of 14 from the field. He didn't score until the 2-minute mark in the second quarter. Luka went almost a half without scoring. And the Mavericks still almost won by 70. That is absolutely insane. So, but I thought that comment from Jason Kidd was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, even like you look at the 3-point shooting for this team, 46 threes in this game
for the Mavs.
I feel like that's kind of sneaky. Like I didn't feel like they shot that many threes. No,
because they were in the flow of the offense. They weren't forcing them. They weren't just like hunting threes. It felt like it was in the flow of the offense.
And you know, obviously it helped Tim hit 5 of those. He shot the ball pretty well tonight.
We talked all about Kristaps Porzingis. Tim led the league. Tim led the team in scoring with 20 and hit those 5 threes, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, another sneaky, like, good preseason so far. Sterling Brown.
Yeah.
Like, 3 or 4 from 3 tonight. I've liked what I've seen from him off the bench. Like, that's the type of stuff that if you can get him, Reggie Bullock obviously didn't play tonight because of, you know, personal reasons, but if Sterling Brown and Reggie Bullock are like serviceable, like, if they can be better than Josh Richardson, I mean, that's the thing.
They both can. Yeah,
I know, but like that's it. Like, it's just, it makes such a difference for this team.
Adding a couple of those rotation players is going to be massive for this team. And if they're both playable, which we believe Reggie Bullock to 100% be, and then Sterling Brown, we were like, oh, let's see how he is. If he's going to look like this, if he's going to play, and he's not doing anything out of his game or anything, he's just doing stuff like he said. 12 points, hit 3 threes, had a couple assists as well. Had that one, the dunk from Josh Green was an assist from Sterling Brown and the fast break. So Sterling Brown looked great. What are other thoughts? Other people that looked great in this game? We talked about Tim Hardaway. His shot just looks great. He has confidence. The Mavs are up by like 50, and he just took like a 3 early in the shot clock. I'm like, oh, he does not care for anybody's feelings on the other team. He's not trying to he's like, I'm taking this 3, and it was a deep one too. It was like he didn't have to take that, but he wanted to.
I was doing something with the kids in the fourth quarter. How did Draymond Green do?
Eugene Omoruyi, a.k.a. Young Draymond Green. Young with Y-U-N-G. Young Draymond. 5 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, a steal, and a block. He was all over the place. He was good. But the real standout to me in the fourth quarter, Frank Ntilikina.
What about his shot creation?
Had a pull-up jumper that he created himself. And I was like, Frank Ntilikina. French Prince, let's go.
Also,
he was 3 of 4. He hit a 3 as well. 7 points for him. I thought he looked really good.
Also,
he was out there with nobody else that could create a shot. It was like him. It was him, Sterling Brown, Josh Green, Maxey, and Moses. Like it was all kind of on Frank to create offense, and he did.
Did you see his Q&A with Mark Stein?
I saw some of it. Yeah.
Mark Stein asked him the same question we did about his nickname. Of what, and he told him the same thing. So if you need any confirmation of what Frank Ntilikina likes as his nickname,
right?
We asked him a question. Mark Stein's asked him a question. He's told us both the same answer. He likes the French Prince, not Frankie Smokes. So.
He doesn't hate Frankie Smokes though, or maybe he's just been really polite to us. But he was like, I
think it's time to retire it. It's just the French Prince.
That's the nickname he wants. So yeah, I thought he looked great on offense. That he was kind of sneaky. Like, oh, if he can just hit a 3 and maybe every once in a while like hit a pull-up shot, that's huge for his game. That's huge for him making this team too.
He's also a guy like he's like a tool in tool chest of like when you have the special project and you're like, dang, I can't really do like I gotta finish this like project outside, but I gotta have this specific tool that you have that you hardly ever use.
There's a special Allen wrench with a hole in the middle to get your license plate off. If you guys have ever had this thing with your license plate where it has like this screw that has like a needle like sticking out of it, where you're like, okay, I got to get an Allen wrench, but it can't be one of those full Allen wrenches where it's all metal in it. It has like a hole in the middle of the Allen wrench so that you can get your license plate off. That's what Frank Ntilikina is.
what would be the ultimate like out of like the curveball for opening night? Next Thursday, they start Frank against Atlanta and say, "Go guard Trey."
Is this the memorial? The Courtney Lee memorial starting spot on opening night?
Well, I was just thinking, like I totally see a role like Ntilikina that he's not in the rotation a ton, but the Mavs are going against some like point guard that is lighting them up. He's already put up like 20 points. It's close to halftime, and kids like. We're putting Frank on him in the second half.
Yep.
Frank's going to play a lot in the second half. And let's just he's already torching us. It's Lillard. It's Trae Young. It's somebody. And they put Frank in there to start the second half. And they just say, hey, go guard him and just see what happens. I think that's the type of role I could see Frank playing this year.
He's a weird, like guard version of Boban.
like
a situational player that you pick in certain spots.
Anything about Trey Burke and Boban not playing tonight?
The Boban one, they just didn't need him.
Boban, I don't care.
Boban would have destroyed this team, though. He would.
And Luka would destroy this organization if Boban got cut. So I don't think. But Trey Burke didn't play at all.
He was probably the emergency player again. We didn't hear that after the game, but he was probably the emergency player.
2 out of 3 games, preseason games. Trey Burke, DNP-CD.
Speaking of a big man destroying the Hornets, Dwight Powell hit another 3. And
wow.
he put the ball on the deck and drove by Mason Plumlee and dunked on him. I was like, do we end Mason Plumlee's career right now?
Mason Plumlee also minus 39 in this game.
We're just going around the team now. Dorian Finney-Smith had another really good drive and kick in the first quarter where it just felt like, okay, this team can, like everybody can do a couple things. Like maybe Dwight Powell is still limited to his one role. Maybe the 3 actually translates this year, but everybody seems to be able to do a couple things on offense, which makes him really dangerous.
Yeah, I freaking love Dorian. 2 of 3 from 3 in this game also.
When he does driving kicks, I feel proud of him. Is that weird? Because we've covered him since like his rookie year was the first year we covered the team, and it just feels
I remember when he couldn't dribble.
I know. That's what it feels like, though.
I remember when he was Stanley. And now he's not.
Moses Brown also, I thought, had a good game. 10 points, 3 boards for him. He just seems like every time he's in there, he's a million feet tall, and he can grab every board, and you love it.
I don't have anything else to add about this game.
I guess that's where we end. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavericks. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. We'll be back tomorrow with some more about this game and where the offense is going. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Now, for your second listen of the day, listen to the GOAT, Josh Lloyd, Locked On Fantasy Basketball, doing incredible stuff. He told me the other day he had 100,000 YouTube views, or almost 100,000 in one day. The dude is killing it right now. Go check out Josh Lloyd, Fantasy Basketball. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace up.
Boom!